And therefore, I feel that those who represent the past of India today, have not really changed, and unfortunately, those who claim to represent future, like the MBA students who claim to represent future, they do not recognize that there was something called past, and which has actually brought them where they are. Earlier, to be an MBA student meant you are going to be, if any communist leader had his son joining management school, it would have been a completely crass, unacceptable practice, because it is joining the bourgeoisie state. Joining the bourgeoisie state, off the cuff, and that would not have been accepted. Today, if I am not exactly revealing any secret, I don't name names, but I can tell you, almost half of the CPM Politburo, or Mumbai-based communist leaders, or Maharashtra-based communist leaders, or nation-based communist leaders have their sons or daughters studying in Boston, in New York, in Washington. In fact, proudly, many of the comrades say that my son is in Boston, including Sitaram Yechuri, I suppose, and A.B. Vardhan. I didn't want to take names, but I was tempted to A.B. Vardhan and Yechuri because they're particularly loud about ideology. And imagine, this would not have happened. Ajit Abhinkar's son also wanted to go, and this would not have happened before 1989. For communists to think of America even as a place to go to studies was considered politically regressive, negative, reactionary, and so on and so forth. Everything has changed, and that change has occurred in actual life, but unfortunately, those who are actually experiencing that change refuse to accept that the change has occurred. And as a result, they wanted to actually, what was the slogan which Comrade Chavan gave me as well as Madhav? We were brought up on that slogan. That our task is not to interpret the world, what is going on in the world. That's not the task, which unfortunately I have to do it every day in my office. Our task is not supposed to interpret the world or the events of the world, but our task was to change the world. We completely forgot that the world was changing even without making our efforts. And then, because we could not comprehend the change, we stuck to the old shibboleths, we stuck to the old realities and continued to pretend or believe that we are still changing the world when the world had already changed. I'll just give you an instance I think many of you will remember here because it's not very old history. In 1993-94, and actually even before, when Rajiv Gandhi began his computer revolution between 1985 and 89, and Comrade Chavan was present when me and Madhav and others organized a meeting in Dadar, and many people came to attend the meeting, and it was against what? It was a meeting, still that booklet is at my home. It was anti-computerization drive. It is still titled the anti-computerization drive. On the booklet there are signatures of Comrade Y.V. Chavan and many others. This was in 1984 to 88. In 1991, as I said, poor Rajiv Gandhi could not even Google. And after 1992-93, that movement against computer continued. And in the newspaper where I worked, which is Times of India, there was a trade union which opposed computers tooth and nail, and the last person to succumb to the computers was one of my reporters in Maharashtra Times in 1998. Till that time, there was tremendous resistance in all the newspapers, the banks, the insurance offices about computers. Now, at that time, the debate was about GATT and the WTO. And if you supported GATT, you were a treacherous person. You were committing a treason. You were completely unpatriotic. If you supported GATT, means you were bringing in East India Company. Incidentally, that has been bought by an Indian now. So East India Company, you were bringing back an entire left, whether it is the socialists, the communists, the different factions in the communist movement, the non-party left, everybody in 1994 was anti-GATT. In 1996 came formally the WTO, and at that time everybody opposed the computerization, continued to oppose the computerization. Today, I will be surprised if there is a single comrade in the whole country who not only does not use computer, but does not consider knowing computer as the most important thing if you want to really change the world. Now, if you want to change the world with computers and with mobile phones and with internet and with Facebooks and so on and so forth, you could not have opposed even if you had your vision clear and straight way back in 1984, 1989, 1994 or 1991. Post 1991, when everybody attacked GATT, everybody attacked globalization, everybody attacked liberalization in 1991, and then comes Comrade Buddhadev Bhattacharya in 2000, when Mamata Banerjee gives the same slogans which CPM was giving about 20 years ago. And CPM says the main enemy is Mamata Banerjee, but Mamata Banerjee is actually talking exactly the same language which CPM was talking from 1977 up to 1989, even when CPM was in power. So now who is reactionary? Buddhadev? Because he wants a foreign capital to come, a foreign investment to come to Calcutta, foreign investment to come to Bengal, or Mamata who does not want even nano to come to Calcutta. Who is reactionary? Perhaps some of you may know that in Soviet Union it became a big issue of what is right and what is left. Right, not in the sense of right and wrong, what is right and what is left. Because the party in power was a communist party. The people who opposed, following Gorbachev's coup, who opposed the Communist Party's rule in Soviet Union, called themselves as leftists, and the Communist Party was a rightist rule in Soviet Union. So it was a right-wing rule in Soviet Union, and the leftists opposed because leftists believed in democracy and the rightists believed in state. So rightists believed in actually communist state, what they thought was it was a communist state, and so they were opposed by the leftists who were reactionaries who wanted capitalism to come to Russia. So the right and left began to change around Gorbachev, and let us not forget in 1991, actually 1990 December, cynical about the communist movement, because no communist can afford to be cynical. Marx was never cynical. Marx you can call, perhaps some people may call him even arrogant, but Marx was never cynical. Marx was always optimistic. But Marx was ready to change. Marx 4 times changed Communist International. He was the representative of 4th International. Paris Commune was 1871 and Marx defended it. And when he realized that it is going to lead to the massacre of workers, he changed. Between 1871 and 1883, he wrote another thesis saying that that was wrong, that is not the way. And yet with so much of experience in the 20th century about which you talk, with so much of experience, forget 20th century, just 20 years, 2 decades from 1990 to 2010, so much has changed, and yet, unfortunately, people whom we call comrades continue to proudly call comrades because we know their selfless sacrifice which they have made in their life for building a future. In fact, the very idea of future, let me say that very clearly. Let me very firmly say that the very idea of future, the very idea of better future, the very idea of changing the world would not have come to me or to Madhav but for the people like Comrade Chavan. They taught us maybe